Welcome to Leading with Significance. I am Wendy Clark, and I am so excited to share with you today one of my favorite principles of all time and one of my favorite topics. And the topic is what to do when you're stuck. All of us get stuck, whether you're stuck now or stuck in the future, but it's that valley of decision of when you don't know what to do and you keep on going around that mountain that we're going to talk about and share about today. And today we're going to share some principles, we're going to share the why, we're going to share the what, and we're going to share the practical application and the how to get unstuck. So years ago, I was building carpe diem cleaning. Yes, I have a cleaning business, but I hate cleaning. But it motivated me to have a business and to have employees and to go for the dream. And I was in my idealistic self, and we were growing, and I'd hired a few employees. And one of the employees that I hired happened to be the golden boy at our church. And they're like, oh, he's going to help you build your business. And I was excited about the potential and having him come on board. And as you're growing a business, most of you know, a lot of times you take on clients that you would prefer not to have taken on because you need the money. And I called her Miss Grumpy Drawers, and she was a rather grumpy person, but I took her on as a client anyway. So around 7:03 p.m. after we had just cleaned Grumpy Drawers' house, my phone rings. And I was like, oh no! It is not good when a client calls you the night of a service. It's particularly not good when Grumpy George is calling you the night of the service. I knew it could not be good. Hello? Wendy? Why is there a plunger on my living room carpet? I wanted to die. I was so humiliated. I was horrified. And even though she was Grumpy George, why was there a plunger on her living room carpet? I don't know quite what I said, but I got off the phone and I was going to get to the bottom of this. And so I started asking employees about it. And Golden Boy, he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I was chasing other employees around with the plunger, and I forgot and left it in the carpet. I entered the valley of decision whether I liked it or not. The emotional pain of going through that, the shame and the, man, it'd just be easier if I could do it myself, was truly tempting. And so in that moment, I had a decision to make. Do I just go ahead and clean myself? Because at that point, I'd make more money cleaning than I would investing in employees personally. Or do I solve the employee problem and figure out how to build a business and take the risk that I'm going to get more phone calls and other terrible things like that, and to learn how to handle that pain? And in that moment, I said, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. Fired the Golden Boy, obviously. And it was my journey of how to build a business and how to build my leadership skills where I am building in success today. And if I had not stewarded that valley of decision well, I wouldn't be here talking with you. So that is what we're talking through. And we're talking through the valley of decisions. And we're going to start off with the why, the what, like what's going on, like how do we get stuck? And one of my favorite business principles, I love to call it the tension of two truths. Niels Bohr is a famous physicist, and he said the opposite of a lie the opposite of a fact is a lie. The opposite of a profound truth is another profound truth. And the easiest way to demonstrate that is if you were married to a Jewish spouse in Germany during World War II and the Gestapo's at your door, knock, knock, knock. Do you prioritize honesty or loyalty? If you prioritize loyalty, you will incur the sin of honesty and lie. If you prioritize honesty, you'll incur the sin of loyalty and betray. Both honesty and loyalty are two good things, and how you prioritize them makes a difference. I've been working with my son on his decision making, and the way I put it to him is you have a choice. You can plant a tomato seed or a blueberry seed or blueberry seed. It's your choice. If you plant a tomato seed, you're going to get a tomato plant, and that requires this sunlight, this type of soil. It's going to require this. If you plant a blueberry seed, it's going to need a different type of soil, a different type of sunlight. They're both good things, but it matters which one you're choosing. And we're working on choosing listening ears and the consequences if you don't. And so in prioritizing and learning how to prioritize two good things, there's a prioritization that actually makes a difference when you're stuck. And it's the prioritization of how you prioritize what you do with your time. Ben Franklin says this, "Thou lovest life, then do not squander time, for this is the stuff life is made of." And in the study of time management, they have discovered there are two aspects to our time: that which is urgent and that which is important. And the Eisenhower matrix is a classic tool that people use in time management of wrestling with decision making of where do you spend your time. The first quadrant in the Eisenhower matrix is quadrant 1. It's highly urgent and highly important. It is that I broke my leg today. That is both urgent of I am in extreme pain, I've got to deal with it today, and it's important because we need to be healthy and get the cast, and it has to be done today. In business, it is the client work. It is the we've got to clean the houses. If we don't clean the houses today, we will not get paid. It is deadlines. It is when things are due. It is the urgent. It has to do with today. And important is the things that are important in our lives. In the quadrant 2 is low urgent and high importance. That's exercise. If I don't exercise today, there's not the same emotional cue of I can get away with that. Now, it's important because I want to exercise overall to be healthy, but if I don't do it today, it doesn't matter. It's creating your will. It's creating systems and processes. It's marketing. It's those things that are important that we work on today, but if we don't get it done today, we don't have the emotional consequence or the immediate consequence for not getting them done. The third quadrant is highly urgent and low importance. And my favorite example of this is we went through a season where our credit cards got hacked, and lo and behold, it got hacked again, and I get the email, and so I'm calling the bank because, it's urgent to deal with hacked cards so you don't keep on losing money. And I'm on hold. It's 11:53 a.m. and the bank says the wait time is 15 minutes. So all of a sudden, I've entered this valley of decision again of I had this meeting at noon with my team. I had been prioritizing being on time with them. We had all prepared for this. There were things that we were working on. It was an important meeting. Which one do I choose? Because that hack card felt really urgent of I need to deal with this. And as I prioritized the urgent and important, I realized that whether I call the bank at 12 or at 2, I was going to get the same results. So I put the hack card down in my brain, hung up the phone. I went to the important meeting. We had a great meeting. And then at 2, came back in my office and I called the bank and they said, well, you can't really do anything until tomorrow anyway because the charges were pending. So that is quadrant 3, highly urgent, not important. It's not that it's not important overall, it's just how important is it in that moment. And then there's quadrant 4, which is low urgent and low important. That is not resting. Resting is a quadrant 2. It's not watching your favorite show. That's quadrant 2. It's when you're killing time or you've watched your favorite show and had intentionality around that, but now you're channel surfing for another couple hours. Or you say that I'm wasting time. It's squandering time. And what studies have shown is that where we spend the majority of our time is in quadrant 1, 3, and 4. But where our future lies is in quadrant 2. So I made a commitment to myself of that I was going to figure out how to do quadrant 2 living. I was going to learn how to prioritize against the tyrant called urgent, quadrant 2. And you can say, hey, that's great, but how does this help you get unstuck? And this is really about living our life goals and not living with regrets. How do we know that we're going from urgent to important? I have a friend, I call him George, and he made this transition. And we were talking about it. And Henry Thoreau has this quote. He says, all of us live lives of quiet desperation. And my friend George, for years, was living not quiet, but desperation. Life was beating down on him. There was a lot of fires, his business, though more successful than most anyone he knew, still had a lot of problems, a lot of pain, a lot of chaos. And he's made this transition where, excuse me, he is prioritizing the important. I said, George, what made the difference? And what he shared was, what made the difference was that I was self-aware and I realized that the issue was me. And the secret of I have met the enemy and she is me, George had met the enemy and he was him. And he said, I decided to make myself my best friend, that I would prioritize my relationship with myself, that I would advocate for what was best for me and treat myself with the respect and learn how to trust myself in a way that I had not before. And that was the beginning of this journey of transitioning from an urgent life to an important life. And so you're like, great, I can buy into that. Wonderful, Wendy. But how do I do this? How do I see the urgent versus important? The first thing I would say is, one, start listening to your language. Our language will reflect what we believe and what quadrant we're living in. And there really is two words, or two phrases. It's the phrase, I have to, versus I choose to. I have to pay my mortgage. Well, no, I choose to pay my mortgage. I have to change a dirty diaper. No, I choose to change a dirty diaper. I choose, and I actually say this to my kids. I'm like, thank you for this dirty diaper because it means that your digestive tract is healthy. It means that you are part of my life. I am so glad to choose to change this dirty diaper. We are working on going to the potty, but we'll get there. And it's I choose to change a dirty diaper. So listen to your language. Listen to the times that you say, I have to, versus I choose to. I choose to go to work. I choose to be in these relationships. I choose the choices that I'm making. The second way to start transitioning from urgent to an important mindset is have a meeting with yourself once a month. Of setting aside that time once a month on your schedule for 2 to 3 hours where you're starting to meet with yourself. And you're like, great, Wendy, that I could do that, but then what do I talk to myself about? And in helping you with that, what I've done is I've created an agenda for that first meeting with you. And so if you're interested in that agenda for the meeting, please email me at wendy@durhamexchange.org. Prioritizing you matters. When you travel and you're on a plane, they'll say, in case of emergency, in case of quadrant 1, in case of urgency, and the oxygen masks come down, put your own oxygen mask on and then put that on of others. And what I have found fascinating is when you have young kids, they will actually come up to you after the general announcement, look you in the eye, and ask you, will you commit to putting on your own oxygen mask? Because they know if you don't, you won't. But if you commit to, then you will. And so this meeting with yourself, and what I'm really asking is for this commitment of, will you put on your own oxygen mask? And why is this important? Like, why am I talking about this skill set? Like, is this truly the skill set that can help you get unstuck? And my thesis is yes, I do believe so. Bronnie Ware is a hospice nurse, and she wrote a book about when people die, about the regrets that they have. And so we all assume it's the regrets of, man, I wish I hadn't worked so hard, that I'd spent it with those I love. That is part of it. But what she discovered was the number one regret when people were dying is that they had prioritized what others wanted for their life and not their self or their dreams. And they wished that they had prioritized the dreams of their heart and had not invested their time and resources in what everyone else told them they should spend their lives on. And the reality is, the one thing that every human has in common is that we are going to die. And I want to meet that end like a race where when you are racing, you're not slowing down at the end, but you're going through it and acknowledging that. And so, and part of what I think that regret is the regret of not knowing how to get unstuck. So with that, we've talked a little bit about why we get stuck, the mindset, the practical what, time management, and the practical, hey, here are 2 steps that you can take towards shifting from an important mindset to an urgent mindset to an important mindset. And so I wanted to share one more story with you of, does this really work? You know, I'm talking about the big dreams and, you know, the end of our lives and fulfilling our dreams. But does it work on the day-to-day? And I would like to say, yes, I think it does. So last summer, my son was in Little League. He was in the All-Stars tournament, and we were driving. It was a weekend tournament, and we were driving there. It was a cloudy Sunday morning. He had just turned 8 the week before, and we were in somewhere around the 3rd inning. We were transitioning the teams. Our kids were coming into the baseball dugout. The other team was getting on the field. It was machine pitch, so the pitching coach was out. Our pitching coach was out. I was actually texting someone wishing them a happy birthday. It was just a normal, regular Sunday morning. We were losing, but we won't talk about that moment. And all of a sudden, you hear bang, bang, bang. we all thought we heard bang, 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 but it was bang, bang, bang once you watch the video. People start shouting, shots, get down, shots. All of our kids were in the mud in the dugout. The other team's kids were down on the field. One of his baseball mates who understood what was going on was crying and shouting, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. In the video afterwards, you could see where our pitching coach was involuntarily flinching as the bullets were passing him, landing in my van with my daughter's stroller, who I'd chosen the night before to not bring with me. That moment was a valley of decision that I was not expecting. And I went back to this skill set of how do I prioritize what decisions I'm going to make, because I knew in those next few minutes, how I prioritized was going to make a difference. There were parents that were laying on the ground with their backs exposed for whoever to come up and shoot them. I didn't want to look on this moment with regret. And so I practiced what I knew of prioritizing my different decisions. I prioritized that I want my son to live. If I want my son to live, then I need to be willing to die. Because I also understood in that valley of decision, confidence mattered. And if I didn't act with confidence and I did get shot, that it could be in vain and that my goal of my son living, I would not accomplish that. So I'm like, okay, in order to have confidence, am I fully confident that I can die in this moment? So I started to go through my quadrant 2 in my brain. Okay, I have my will. I have life insurance, not only for my kids, but for my business, because I don't want my team members to suffer because I wasn't prepared and this what happened to me. I had written down my heart so that my children could know my heart and they could know me. I was also clear, I didn't want to die that day. I still had big dreams and I was kind of bummed because I wanted to see them come to fruition. However, if this was my day to go, I could have peace of my stewardship. I had peace with my maker. I looked through that last week of where I'd spent my time. I had spent my time on the important. I had spent my time with relationships of people who value me. I had told people who I love that I love them regularly, like there were no regrets, so that I could have confidence to face what I needed to face so that the important goal of my son living could be accomplished. And that I could look back on that moment of valley of decision and to say, I didn't make choices out of fear that I would regret. That moment paused when another parent who had a conceal and carry had army crawled up to the pitching mound, and I knew at that point it was going to be okay, that we'd be able to immobilize the threat that was coming. Later, they figured out what it was someone was target shooting with road signs and didn't realize that there was a baseball field a half mile away. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to come here and share with you about van windows and the bullets going by. I'm grateful that no one died, and I'm grateful of the choices that I made in that valley of decision that I wasn't expecting. The skill set of urgent and important and prioritizing the important and having the important mindset works. Thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing with me.